In a cave on the coast of South Africa, archaeologists found a scatter of tiny stone points, barely the size of a fingernail, chipped to a fine, sharp tip. And when they looked closer, some of them still carried a faint residue, traces of glue and blood, and what may even have been poison. These little points are around 64,000 years old, and they are some of the oldest evidence we have of a machine, not just a tool, a machine, because these are arrowheads. And the thing that launched them changed what a human being was capable of, forever. Let me explain what makes the bow so special, because at first glance, it doesn't look like much. A bent stick, a piece of string, a thin shaft with a point on the end. But hidden inside that simple shape is an idea that nothing in nature had ever used quite like this. The bow stores energy, and then it gives it all back at once. Think about throwing a spear. Everything you put into that throw happens in a single fast motion. Your arm swings, the spear leaves your hand, and whatever speed you manage to build in that instant is all it will ever have. Your body is the engine, and your body has limits. There is only so fast a human arm can move, and no amount of trying changes that ceiling. Now, the earlier inventions tried to cheat that limit. A spear thrower, an atlatl, adds a lever to your arm and squeezes out more speed, and it works beautifully. But it is still one motion, one throw, powered by your muscles in real time. You are still the engine. You are still limited by how fast you can move your own body in a single instant. The bow does something completely different. When you draw a bow, you are not throwing anything yet. You are slowly, patiently, loading energy into the limbs of the bow. Every centimeter you pull the string back, the wood bends a little more, and it fights you a little harder. You might spend a full second pulling, and in that second, your muscles are pouring energy into the bow, and the bow is holding on to it, storing it, waiting, then you let go. And all of that stored energy, everything you spent a whole second building up, is released into the arrow in a tiny fraction of that time. The limbs snap straight, the string whips forward, and the arrow leaps off it far faster than your arm could ever have thrown it. That is the trick. You do the work slowly, the bow gives it back instantly. A human arm is a weak, slow engine. But a human arm winding up a spring, and the spring doing the throwing, that is something else entirely. It helps to think of the bow as a battery, not for electricity, but for muscle power. You charge it up over a second with a slow, strong pull, and it discharges everything in a blink. The heavier the bow, the more it fights you as you draw it, and the more energy it holds. A serious hunting bow might take the effort of lifting a small child to pull all the way back. All of that effort goes into the wood, and all of it comes out the moment you release. This is why the bow counts as a real machine. It is one of the first devices humans ever built that takes the effort you put in and transforms it. It amplifies you. And once you understand that, everything about the bow starts to make sense. Take range. A thrown spear might travel 20 or 30 meters with any real force behind it. A good bow can send an arrow more than 100, and it arrives flat and fast, not in a slow, lazy arc you can watch coming, but on a line, almost too quick to react to. Take the arrow itself. It is light, much lighter than a spear, and that is on purpose, because a light projectile is easy to accelerate to high speed. You are not trying to hurl a heavy weight, you are trying to send a small, fast, sharp thing exactly where you are looking. And to keep it flying true, you add feathers to the back. As the arrow leaves the string, those feathers catch the air and spin it, the same way a rifle spins a bullet, so it flies straight instead of tumbling. Take reloading. When you throw a spear, it is gone. You have one. Maybe you carry 2 or 3. But an archer carries a quiver and can loose arrow after arrow, one every few seconds, without ever leaving their position. One hunter, many shots, and take stealth. To throw a spear, you have to stand, wind up your whole body, and commit to a big, obvious motion. To shoot a bow, you can crouch behind a bush, draw quietly, and release with barely a movement. The animal often never knows you are there until it is already too late. Put all of that together, and you can see what the bow did for hunting. Before, getting close enough to kill something large was dangerous. You had to sneak within a few body lengths of an animal that could gore you, trample you, or bolt. With a bow, that distance stretches out. You can kill from cover, from range, in near silence. You can take shots at fast, wary animals, that would never let a spear thrower near them. Birds in the reeds, small game darting through the grass, prey that used to be almost impossible. And remember that residue on the ancient points. Some researchers think a few of those early arrows were tipped with poison, which makes brutal sense. An arrow does not always kill instantly, but a small wound, delivered from a safe distance, carrying a toxin, will bring down an animal far larger than you could ever risk fighting up close. The hunter just has to wait. Hunting became safer, and it became more reliable. And a group of humans who can reliably bring home food is a group that survives and grows and spreads. And make no mistake, using a bow well was a craft in its own right. Storing energy in the wood is one thing. Sending the arrow exactly where you want it is another skill entirely, one that takes years to master. An archer has to read the wind, judge the distance, and account for the slow drop of the arrow as it flies, aiming a little high so it falls onto the target. Above all, they have to release the string cleanly, without the tiny flinch that would send the shot wide. Draw too little, and the arrow falls short. Snatch at the release, and you miss. The best hunters were specialists, people who had practiced 10,000 times until the whole motion became invisible and automatic. Picture it. A hunter lies flat in the tall grass at the edge of a waterhole, downwind, barely breathing. A herd of antelope drifts in to drink. The hunter chooses one animal and begins to draw, so slowly that nothing moves but the string sliding back. For a heartbeat, everything holds. The bow is fully loaded, straining, a whole second of muscle wound tight into the wood. Then the release. A soft snap, a blur, and the arrow is already there, before the herd has even registered the sound. The animal bolts a short distance, and within minutes it is down. The hunter never had to stand, never had to charge, never had to risk a horn or a hoof. That is what the bow really changed. It turned hunting from a desperate, dangerous wrestle at close range into something closer to a calm, patient decision made from a safe distance. And the people who were best at it became some of the most valued members of any group. Because feeding a band of humans and defending it now came down to a skill you could practice and perfect. Not just how big you were or how brave, but how well you could reach out and place a single small point exactly where it needed to go. But the bow has a darker side, because a weapon that lets you kill an animal from 100 meters away, silently, from behind cover, also lets you kill a person that way. For most of human history, fighting meant getting close. It meant clubs and spears and muscle against muscle, where the strongest and the bravest usually won. The bow broke that rule. Suddenly, a smaller person, hidden at a distance, could kill a larger one before that larger one could even reach them. Strength stopped being the whole story. Skill and range began to matter more than raw size, and it scaled. One archer is dangerous. 100 archers, loosing arrows together, turned the sky itself into a weapon. Whole battles came to be decided by who could put more arrows in the air, faster, and from farther away. Nowhere is that clearer than with the people who married the bow to the horse. Across the open grasslands of Asia, mounted archers learned to gallop, turn, and fire, hitting targets while riding at full speed. Their bows were short and brutally powerful, built by gluing horn and sinew onto a wooden core so they could store enormous energy in a frame small enough to swing around on horseback. On these bows, the Mongols built the largest land empire the world has ever seen, an army that could shoot on the move from any direction and never had to stand and trade blows was almost impossible to beat. And then there is the English longbow, a bow as tall as a man, drawing so heavily that archers trained from childhood, their bodies literally reshaped by the effort. We can still find their skeletons today, with thickened arms and twisted spines from a lifetime of drawing. At battles like Agincourt, a few thousand of these archers destroyed a much larger army of armored knights, filling the air with so many arrows that the sky went dark. For a while, in England, practicing with the longbow was not a hobby, it was the law. The bow even got a machine of its own. Someone realized you could mount the whole idea on a wooden stock, add a catch to hold the string, and a trigger to release it. Now you could draw the bow with your whole body, lock the energy in place, and simply aim and wait. That was the crossbow. And it was so deadly and so easy for an untrained person to use that the church once tried to ban it, horrified that a peasant with a few days of practice could now kill a nobleman who had trained for war his entire life. The bow was, in a very real sense, the beginning of the arms race, the first time humans reached out and killed each other at a distance, and then spent thousands of years trying to reach a little farther. So how do we actually know all this? How do we know people were shooting bows 60,000 years ago, when a bow was made of wood and string rot away to nothing? We almost never find the bows themselves. What we find are the points. And here's the clever part. The size and shape of a stone point tells you how it was meant to be used. A big, heavy point belongs on a thrusting spear. A medium one might tip a thrown spear or a dart. But when you find points that are tiny and light and made to sit on the end of a very thin shaft, that is the signature of an arrow. A point that's small only makes sense if something other than a human arm was doing the throwing. Those little stone blades have a name, microliths, and when they start showing up in the record in large numbers, carefully made, that is one of the strongest clues that the bow had arrived. Then there is the residue. On some of those ancient South African points, researchers found traces of glue used to fix the point to a shaft, and the exact kind of wear and breakage you would expect from an arrow striking home at speed. The wood is gone, but the fingerprints of the whole system are still there, frozen in the stone. And as we come forward in time, the record becomes undeniable. In a bog in Denmark, preserved bows turned up almost perfectly intact, thousands of years old, elegant and springy, and clearly the work of people who had been refining this design for a very long time. And when the famous Iceman, Ötzi, was found frozen in the Alps, he was carrying a bow and a quiver of arrows, the bow still unfinished, still being shaped when he died. By then, the bow was not a novelty. It was everyday equipment. What is striking is how the same basic idea appears all over the world. Different peoples, on different continents, separated by whole oceans, all arriving at the same solution: a stave, a string, and a light-pointed shaft. That is how good the idea is. When a design is that powerful, humans discover it again and again, independently, because it simply works. And once they had it, they never stopped improving it. They laminated wood and horn and sinew together to make bows that stored even more energy in a smaller frame. They built the massive longbows that could punch through armor. They mounted the whole mechanism on a stock and added a trigger. Every one of those was just a new answer to the same ancient question. How do I store more energy and give it back faster? But step back, and the bow is bigger than any single battle or empire, because it is one of the first times a human being built a device that reaches beyond the limits of the body. Your arm can only throw so hard, but a bow does not care how hard your arm can throw. It cares how much energy you can slowly feed into it, and then it releases that energy on its own terms. For the first time, a human was not the engine anymore. The human was the one who loaded the machine. That is a profound shift, and it did not stop with the bow. The crossbow stored energy in a heavier spring. The catapult scaled the same idea up to hurl boulders. And eventually, we learned to store energy not in bent wood, but in the chemistry of gunpowder, packed into the back of a gun. But the core idea, the thing that lives inside all of them, is the one first captured by a bent stick and a piece of string. Store energy, release it fast, send something small and sharp much faster than a body ever could. So think about that scatter of tiny stone points in a South African cave. To anyone glancing at them, they are just chips of rock. But they are the fingerprints of the moment a tropical ape stopped relying only on its own strength and started building machines to do the reaching for it. A bent stick and a piece of string. The first time humans stretched out across empty space and touched the world from a distance. And once we learned how to do that, we never, ever stopped.